Sup, coach?
Oh, just same shit, different day, man. Dealing with some traffic. I swear,
Or
Florida is like similar to LA traffic now because of all the people living here.
I keep hearing that because everybody's well, not everybody. So many people moved out of like. So okay, it was like what? It was New York, basically New York, LA, and Atlanta. It was like the craziest traffic, right? And I feel like since 2020, so many people moved out of there to Vegas, Florida, and Texas. That's where, right? So it's like
I
now
feel like
everybody.
Texas and Florida got them most.
Oh, for sure, for sure. So now everybody that live there, they're like, wait, all these people are coming here now. We got all this traffic, right?
Yeah, it's
So
not fun anymore.
it's wild how that works. But then the traffic here is still crazy, But it's still better off being not in LA, you know.
Yeah, it still takes like 3 hours to go 50 miles in LA.
Yeah, yeah. But here's the thing, right? Usually we go 0 to 100. We're like, okay, oh fuck LA, I'm leaving Cali. But here's the truth: you don't actually have to leave Cali. You just have to leave LA, right? But nobody thinks about that because my family had a house in Marietta, traffic in Marietta, you know what I'm saying?
Is that
And
Georgia?
well, funny you say that because they were actually in Marietta, Georgia. They had a house there, sold it. Now they're in Marietta, California.
Oh,
But they didn't like Georgia for. I thought they would love Georgia, but I
dude, I
guess.
don't. I don't like Georgia. There's
Oh
nothing
yeah,
about Georgia I like.
wasn't. Well, I can see that too, but
I got a couple of friends that live there that I like, but outside of that, I don't like Georgia as a state or as a whole.
I've only been to Georgia only to visit loved ones, so I don't really know what's going on there at all. As long as they're in your box, I guess you know that's all you know, right? It's like being here. I live in West Hollywood, and people who know me are like, I can't imagine you living in West Hollywood. But I'm like, I'm in a bubble though. I'm here. Uh, I'm here at my apartment. I'm at the gym. I'm in Downey. I'm in Vegas. I mean, I go to specific places, right? I'm not like I'm not hanging out, so I don't
Yeah,
really. I'm not like a West Hollywood guy, I'm not out here partying and hanging out at bars and shit. So it doesn't really matter. What does matter to me is like the reason I do want to move is I actually do want to build more of a sense of community. And first of all, what I'm paying here for a 2 bedroom apartment, I have a client paying less than this in it's not Vegas, it's Henderson, which is right next to Vegas, and she's paying less than me for a 4 bedroom, 2 bathroom house.
I'm
Where
sure. Yeah.
yeah, so then it makes me feel stupid. I'm like, yo, what the? I'm just
Well,
throwing my money down to.
my
Huh?
neighbors right beside of me, they rent the house, and their house is bigger than mine. I think theirs is like 3,000 square feet, and they
Yeah,
pay $2,400 a month.
you see what I'm saying?
That's like,
Um,
I don't know how. I think it's like 4 bedrooms. I'd have to Zillow it to look at it, but I mean, 3,000 square feet is a pretty good size house, at least in my
see
opinion. Probably four
that.
beds, probably two, three baths. I mean, they got a backyard, they got a pool, like all that shit, and they're paying $2,400 a month, which I think is still high, but compared
In
to everything
comparison,
else, it's cheap.
is it high compared to Florida? Like, what are you guys paying Florida?
Um, I've never rented in Florida, so I really don't know, but I know in Jupiter, like Berkshire Hathaway, you know what that is, right? It's the
Yeah, yeah.
major apartment complexes everywhere.
Mhm.
I think now, granted, this is Jupiter. Have you ever heard of Jupiter, Florida?
Yeah, I read.
It's very bougie there. Like it's probably like isn't there's a part of LA that's very, very expensive. Like it's somewhere in Orange County. I just don't know where.
Mhm.
So Jupiter is very similar to that. Like we have it's like part of the Treasure Coast, technically. I think the cheapest 1 bedroom you can get at that place is like 2,500, 2,400. I mean, if
Yeah.
you want two beds, it's like 32, 3,500. I mean, and then up from there.
Okay, okay. At the end of the day, I mean, anywhere is better than LA and New York, man. Even if it's the space alone, you know. So I'm just gonna honestly, I'm gonna get out of here. This is how I look at rent. When you're paying rent, you're basically, I mean, it's like a fucking glorified motel, right? You're just throwing your money away to pay for somebody else's apartment. You're making somebody else rich. But that being said, I don't believe you should just jump straight into home owning like off the bat. You
Yes,
know, you got to
correct.
understand. You got to know where you're at in life. Make sure you're settled because I knew I wasn't settled in West Hollywood. It was more so for my relationship at the time and her goals as far as Hollywood and acting. And don't get me wrong, I knew I did make really good connections here and I would not trade it for anything. I knew at some point in my life I wanted to live in LA. I wanted to do the whole Gold's Gym experience. I needed that. I just wanted that, but I knew
Yeah.
that wasn't going to be permanent. You know, so I got everything I needed out of LA, and now I'm ready to get out of here. For the next I don't know. I'm going to take it and I'm going to take it 5 years and then be evaluated. But for the next 5 years, I'm all in on bodybuilding. Um, you've known me for a while. You've coached me in the past. You're coaching me now. I don't know if you can tell, but I wasn't all in back then. I don't know if that was clear to you or not, but sometimes you only know what you know. I thought I was like 80% in at the time, but realistically, I was like 50% in. You know, I had no off season. I think I've done one off season with you that I actually did it in the past, but for the most part, I would completely fuck off season, eat 2, 3 meals a day, do whatever the fuck I wanted, and I would usually reach out to you like 16 weeks
It's kind
out.
of crazy that you got the size that you have doing that, though.
Well, see, but this is something you don't understand until you understand what everybody else is doing, right? Because okay, I don't know how to explain it. Like, as you know, when you're in the early 20s, right? You think you know everything, but you know
Yeah.
nothing. But your ceiling is so low on what you have exposure to. So, from in your small world, you know everything in that world, but you don't realize there's a much bigger world that you don't have any understanding of. So that's how
Correct.
I was.
I was the
I
same
was
way.
Yeah, so I'm in my little umbrella going to Coast Fitness and all these gyms, and I'm the man there. Oh man, how is this guy not pro? Look at this. Oh, you beat all these guys. No, I fucking don't. But they're looking at my genetics, right? But genetics is one thing. Okay, you can look at Quint. Genetically, he has all the tools. He is not there yet, though. He still needs more muscularity, more maturity, the whole nine. So they're looking at genetics, and I'm feeding into it like, wow, yeah, I have it, but I don't realize how far I am actually from muscularity and condition, the whole nine. But the point I'm making is, I thought I was about 80%, but I was probably less than 50%. I would hit you up about 12 to 16 weeks out, completely like completely fat. But here's the thing: I was much fatter than I thought I was. Probably even fatter than you thought you were. Than you thought I were, because the way I held my fat, it still looks shapely. But now looking back at
Yes.
some of the, yeah, I went and looked back at some of our old check-ins, and I'm like, oh man, like there's no lines whatsoever. The shape looks like I'm like 10% body fat, but realistically, I had to have been like maybe closer to like 18. There was
I
not
was
one
thinking
line.
16, 15, 16 range.
Yeah, there was not one line in my body. So I'm like, that's why we would start dieting and I would keep getting smaller and no detail would come out, no condition, to the point that one prep you were like, is your like fat burners like real or fake? And I was like, I don't know. And I switched to farm and it didn't really make a difference because it was real. I was just way fatter than I looked, you know?
That's
So,
usually like I see that oftentimes with a lot of like just rookies, like when they're doing their very first competition.
mhm.
I had a guy, I remember this guy because we're actually friends now. He reached out to me about coaching. He was like 5'7", 5'8", and he was like 230 pounds. And he was also similar to what you're telling me. He had the shape, like the way he held it was really good.
Mhm.
But he said, "What do you think I'm going to be on stage? I'm going to be a heavyweight, right?" And I said, "No." Like I didn't want to drop the bomb hard and say you're not going to be a light heavy either. You're going to be a middleweight. And turns out he ended up going, I think, with Shelby Starnes. I mean, granted, Shelby does push the envelope with certain things, and Shelby got him in shape. And he was like 172, 173 pounds. And like after the show, he actually came to me and he was like, "Yeah, I was a lot fatter than I thought I was." Like he
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
realize just because he had a small waist, there was still fat over it.
It's hard to conceptualize though because you don't know till you know. Because I've seen the opposite as well. I could look at Joe and be like, "Oh man, Joe has so much body fat," but then after 6 weeks of dieting and not like a crazy amount of weight loss, drops 30 pounds, and I'm like, "Whoa, I see glutes already," you know. So he actually looks fatter than he is because he carries it at the worst places. He carries it
Yes.
so you know. So
He
you
carries
can
it
have
right on like the lower back, the abdomen, like right like just right in here area. A
yeah.
little bit on his legs. It's kind of weird with Joe because his glutes will come in and there's still fat left in other places that need to come off.
Yeah. Well, I'm the opposite, man. I wish I had these. I wish I had the glute lines because it can
Brian
bamboozle you.
Bolzano was like that too. When I worked with him,
Yeah.
Brian was one that like 3 to 4 weeks of dieting, he had like root striations. By like 6 or 7 weeks of dieting, they're like stage ready, but
Mhm.
the rest of his body wasn't stage ready. So we had to continue pushing to edge out that detail.
That makes me so jealous. Even though, I understand that you only have lean at your fattest body part. So even if your glutes are in, but the rest of your body is fat, you're not gonna like win the show. But that being said, you do have more leeway because like Quentin, he wasn't he wasn't in true shape at Toronto, but he had glute lines, and I think to a point it did bamboozle the judges to a point that they thought he was probably leaner than he was. I don't think Quint is my friend, so I hope he doesn't take any disrespect. But Quint was not that lean, you know. But with those glute lines, if I was in Quentin's shape, my ass would have been so fucking fat that I would have been last call out. You know what I'm saying? Whereas with Quint, you see some lines. I actually watched the behind the scenes video, and he's posing in a hotel, and I'm like, okay, his abs aren't that in, no striations in his chest. He has some good quad feathers. He has some good glute lines. It was almost like his legs were way ahead, but I don't know. But he held his condition in certain places that kind of bamboozled you a little bit.
He is a wow factor about his physique too. So
Exactly.
like he's a guy like much like Dexter, but very seldomly did you ever see Dexter off? But like if Dexter showed up at like 85%, he's still going to beat most people at 100% because he does have
Okay.
that it factor, that wow factor, just draws your attention to him.
Quint,
Quentin's got
yeah.
the lines. He's tall. He has the shape and the structure. The only thing that will hurt him is when he stands next to like the New York. When he stood next to someone a lot bigger than him, like Nick, it's going to
Yeah.
expose it.
Yeah. Do you think that gives you an advantage to have leaner glutes in
Um,
general?
yes, I did
Yes.
because honestly, I think my lower body, including my glutes, would come in faster than my upper body.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
think it did. Like if I just went by glutes alone, I probably would have competed 10 to 15 pounds heavier, but
Yeah.
it wouldn't have gotten me the titles that I got.
I know what you mean.
And a lot of
Now
guys
the
always show up like, especially when it comes to glutes. I'll specifically talk about that just for a second. Like a lot of guys will say they look better after the show and stuff because they're filled out, but they don't understand it. Like once you get so full, you lose lines in other places. Yeah, your glutes may be full now and they may look better, but everything else doesn't.
it's not gonna work.
So there's a happy medium there.
That look doesn't translate to stage that well. You know what I'm saying? Not the way people think. It was like Dennis James used to bring that post a 1 day post show look to stage, and it would never get him like it would never get him some of the wins that he might have been able to get if he was a little drier. That's
He
why
was always freaky in the gym, and I'm sure standing next to him backstage was very freaky. But when he hits those stage lights, when they're looking for small fine tuned details, that's where he lost it at.
exactly. I've been when I'm this deep in prep, it's hard for me to focus on like series and shows. So I found myself watching documentaries and like Battle for the Olympias. And I watched a couple of Dennis James ones, and you're watching him like what, like a week out, and the lines are all there. But what this is Milos's earlier years, where I think Milos was still trying to figure out the recipe as well. So Milos will push him so hard that by the time he hit the stage, he wouldn't have those lines, you know. But
Was he
in
coached
the
by Milos in his pro career?
yeah, yeah.
Oh
But
shit, I
but
didn't.
but you got to keep in mind with Milos's coaching, a lot of times back then, he was like a friend slash advisor, right? It's
Yeah.
like he's telling him, okay, here's what you're gonna carb up on and stuff, but not necessarily holding his hand and getting weekly check-ins and stuff like that, right? This is
Well,
why
Milos
Milo,
was competing too, right?
yes, yes,
A
you
lot
know,
of guys, I think, would have like this, I don't know, thing in their head, like they wouldn't want to compete against their coach.
yeah. There's a way to do it. Somebody like Milos, man, Milos really doesn't give a fuck. So I think you could trust that Milos competing against you is still trying to bring you in at your best. Milos, he didn't even compete to win. He just competed to compete. Like
He
he wasn't.
loved doing it.
Yeah, he won one show and he doesn't give a fuck. He's just like, I love this shit. And then he tried so much shit on himself and clients and shit that it was just fun for him. In some ways, like when I was coaching myself, that's how I felt. It felt like, wow, I'm just having fun. But eventually I'm like, okay, I have the genetics. I need to fucking win. But if I didn't have the genetics, I would for sure just compete for fun, you know, because there is a funness to pushing your body. Maybe not to this extent that I'm pushing it right now, but if I knew, okay, I don't have the genetics to turn pro, I would have to literally like do some fucked up shit to do it. I probably wouldn't care about winning. I would probably just compete for fun and just try
Yeah.
different things and become a better coach. But yeah,
I think
back
when I
to
started coaching myself, the very first show that I coached myself for, I wanted to win it really, really bad. And I did win it. I won the Orlando Pro. Well, actually, I coached myself for my teenage shows, but that's nobody
yeah,
gives a shit about that.
a little different. Yeah.
Um, but when I won the Orlando, like I went into it, wanting to coach myself, and I kind of went into it as a fun, like just as an experience. I'm like, hey, if I blow this and I'm third, fourth, fifth, or second call out or whatever, like I didn't really care.
I
I
know
mean,
what you
I
mean.
cared because I wanted to win, but I was still going to have a good time whether I was first or last because that whole thing was just a crapshoot. It was literally me just throwing a dart into the air, hoping it would work. And just so happens, I nailed the formula on the first try for myself.
You did, you did.
So it was
You,
kind of scary going into it in a way because it's like you're spending all this money on a pro show, and like I knew. Actually, I take that back. I don't think all eyes were on me at that show. I think all eyes were actually on John De La Rosa, and then I showed
mm,
up.
yeah.
So I probably could have flew under the radar. Had I been off, I don't think I would have caught too much shit for it. Not at that point.
But there is something cool about that. I can't lie. Like with you and Dennis Wolf coaching yourselves and actually looking even like your best. I think there's definitely some cool points on that. Now, if you're not looking your best, like myself, well, I look my best relatively, but I look so much better with you right now, you know. But I mean, I guess at the time last year was my best, even though I knew I could have looked better. Technically, it was my best, but I feel like this is gonna blow that out of the water, you know.
I think we're right on track where we need to be right now. But you mentioned
Perfect.
Dennis. I actually, the beginning of Dennis's career, he was with Chad, right?
Well, he was with he worked with I just watched the podcast.
Milos and Chad.
Well, he did Milos first. When he that year he came in really full. Well, that when he got like top three, right? 2008, something like that. 2007, 2008. What year was that?
Seven, I think you got fifth. I think it was fourth or
Okay,
fifth.
okay. There was a year he did Milos came in really full and did well. Then when I forgot, I can't remember the order, but it was Chad and Milos. I can't remember the order, but he had good experience, bad experience left. Then had good experience, bad experience left. Then tried Patrick Tour, had a bad experience left. Then after Patrick, he was like, "Fuck this," and he just coached himself. I can't remember the order, but yeah, he worked with both Milos and Chad. Chad over depleted him, brought him flat, then overfilled him up, brought him up too full.
See, I think,
And
when Dennis was a guy who handled a lot of food, right?
oh yeah, I should.
So I think the guys who handle a lot of food is obviously the ones who has like crazy metabolism. And those are the people I feel like if you have the knowledge, the confidence, that's a big thing too. A lot of guys don't have the confidence to coach themselves because it does play with your head. I literally was a mind fuck the first 2 hours. I'd wake up every day like, what am I going to do today? How am I going to do this?
Yeah,
But like when you have guys like when you can wake up every day and see a 2 to 5 pound difference every day on the scale, those are the people that I think, again, if they got the knowledge and they got the confidence to do it, they might actually be better off coaching themselves
agreed.
because unless you have a coach who is willing to do daily check-ins with you, I've only had to do that with like 2 or 3 people. Like I did it with Roman a few years back. When I said a few years, I think it was like 2019. It's been several years back.
Time
But
flies.
like he's one of those guys that, you can drop 5, 6 pounds and sometimes you think, okay, well, that's all it's going to do. Wait till tomorrow, check in again. It's like another 4 pounds down. Now he's lost 10 pounds like 2 days.
You can't risk that. Yeah.
So when you have people like that, my body was not anywhere near that level, but it was like that. Like I would drop really fast. So I felt like me being able to wake up and just make the adjustments right now as needed, but I also had the knowledge and skill to do it along with the confidence to do it, even though I was a little shaky that first prep. But I feel like I could get the job done. I mean, those are the type of people I think can sometimes produce better results when they work with themselves.
I agree. Well, that's what you, Dennis Wolf, and Juan Morel have in common, right? Really good metabolisms. They might have you beat on the metabolisms, but
They
still,
do. They do.
but still, really good metabolism. And if you don't check in very closely, their body they're gonna run away
Yeah.
from you. So those
I could
guys,
eat, but I don't think Juan, like his like 20,000 calorie cheat days and shit that he would post on YouTube, I couldn't hang with that.
well, okay. See, the thing is, he doesn't even fluctuate with the sodium, right? Like for you, maybe if you did like a clean 800 carbs, you would look even better. But if you did a dirty one with like hard, like dairy and cheese and shit, I think it would fuck up your digestion. Maybe you would get inflammation, right?
He would
Like
just
with me,
look better.
that's the thing. The issue with me and having cheat meals, like my last prep, I did cheat meals instead of the clean refeeds. It takes me so long to clear that water
Yeah.
inflammation, so I can't gauge how much I really filled out. Like right, so because some of it is just literally sodium inflammation, and then my gut would come out in the whole nine. So there was so much extra variables that with my body I can't afford those variables, and
Well,
one
that's the
didn't
thing.
have.
Just keeping controlling your variables because like I didn't do cheat meals when I was in contest prep. I was too afraid to. Like I was if I could be so flat, like to the point that like I'm struggling to get out of bed and you tell me to eat a burger and fry, I'm gonna say no. Like I'm not gonna do it.
I
Like
don't want it.
I could not bring it to myself to do it because I wanted to keep my variables exactly the same. I was so OCD about it in prep that I would try to buy the exact same brand of like, say I want to go buy chicken or beef. I want the same exact stuff that I use the whole time.
Me too.
I didn't
Yeah.
even like switching brands.
Well, but here the fucked up part. It does make a difference. I don't know if it's because you keep doing the same shit, but literally, I've been doing Trader Joe's, the organic chicken breast. I went to Ralph's. Got don't ask me why. I was just you get so tired in prep you don't even want to. I couldn't be bothered to even make the trip to Trader Joe's. I'm like fuck it. Ralph's is right by my apartment. I'm gonna just go to Ralph's. I bought the fucking frozen chicken breasts. You know what I'm saying? The one that comes in the packet, right?
Yeah.
Here's the problem. Once you freeze it like that, I don't know. Like maybe they could add sodium. I don't know what the fuck they do to it.
Usually
So
they do. If you look very, very carefully and read a label, you'll see that it's on there. It's like 10% sodium solution. You
yeah.
can see that on there. Like, for example, the big packets of chicken you can get from Walmart,
Mm-hmm.
um, 10% sodium. 10% sodium. You can see that on there. Like, for example, the big packets of chicken you can get from Walmart, 10% sodium. You can see that on there. Like, for example, the big packets of chicken you can get from Walmart, 10% sodium. You can see that on there. Like, for example, the big packets of chicken you can get from Walmart, 10% sodium. You can see that on there. Like, for example, the big packets of chicken you can get from Walmart, 10% sodium. You can see that on there. Like, for example, the big packets of chicken you can get from Walmart, 10% sodium. You can see that on there. Like, for example, the big packets of chicken you can get from Walmart, 10% sodium. You can see that on there. Like, for example, the big packets of chicken you can get from Walmart, 10% sodium. You can see that on there. Like, for example, the big packets of chicken you can get from Walmart, 10% sodium. You can see that on there I don't know if it's the bottom left or the bottom right corner. Maybe it's the top corner. I know there's a corner on the label. You can see where it says like 10 to 15% sodium solution. And
Yeah,
that's why it tastes a little different if you actually get like natural organic chicken.
way
Because if you look at
different.
the back label, if you're sensitive to sodium and you look at that label, their 4 ounces has like 350 milligrams of sodium versus a normal 4 ounce of chicken is like 20 or 30.
Exactly. Now, granted, when I'm at, beginning of prep, if I'm at 3,500 calories, I'm not sensitive to any of this shit. But when I'm on fucking 12, 1,300 calories and my food choices are literally four different foods, all these little changes makes a difference. So I
Yeah.
went and bought that. First of all, the shrinkage is crazy. Big ass chicken breast, I cook it, it shrinks like 80%. But I ate it, and my stomach just felt a little discomfort, a little gassy and shit. And I'm like, this is the only thing that changed. So I couldn't do it. So things like that, all the small things matter. Where I feel like somebody like Juan, how the fuck do you eat that amount of food and all these crazy variables and not even like you see the end of the video, he pulls up his shirt and there's no water retention, no bloat or anything like that. That shit's amazing. Granted, I still think he probably could have been better with less variables. If I'm being honest, I think anybody could be better.
I
You
don't
know?
know if he ever tried it that way or not. I literally don't know because I remember even when he was trying to get his pro card, because I used to watch his videos. He turned pro before I did.
Yeah,
And I used to watch, he was with Palumbo and they would carb up. It was like, they had their standard chicken or beef with rice and potato. And then it was McDonald's burgers. That was the go-to, was the McDonald's. And I
yeah,
can't remember. Dave said he ate like fucking like 12 or 13 burgers in a day. It was
yeah.
something ridiculous. Like, man, I'd be
I believe
gagging
it.
if I ate 13 McDonald's burgers in a day.
Yeah, he. I mean, from what he said early on, he actually enjoyed junk food early on, and then I remember later on in his videos, he made another cheat day video. At that point in his career in life, he was like, honestly, I'm doing this more for the video. I don't. I don't enjoy this anymore. He said maybe one cheat meal or so, but I don't enjoy this anymore. But one thing he did say is there was a year where he tried like clean refeeds. He did mention that, and he said that show he came in flat. Now, take that with a grain of salt because what did he do with the clean cheat meals? You could
Yeah.
undershoot, because what you could do is you could still replace the saturated fat with like grass-fed butter or olive oil or stuff like that. Now, if he just did chicken breast and rice, well, that's a
He's
big
going to
a
be
big
fine.
yeah, but so we never saw him document that. There's a way. You can't tell me that there's no other way besides a burger and fries. If you do a ribeye steak and fucking potato and drizzle a bunch of fucking olive oil and grass fed butter and all that shit, trust me, I believe you're still gonna fill out just as well.
I think he would. Yeah. I just
Mhm.
think it was the volume because even before my cookie dealer came out, he was big on cookies and ice cream. That was
Yeah,
like one of his go-tos. Matter of fact, I stole a couple of his ideas because he told me Baskin Robbins praline and cream is what he told me his favorite was,
I
and
used to
that's
love that
it's
shit.
pretty fucking good. Not gonna lie,
I,
but
I,
yeah,
I
he
used
would
to
make
love
the
that shit.
cookies and stuff, and that was part of his go-to. But I know you can get a tremendous amount of calories eating cookies and ice cream
Crazy.
versus eating like steak and potato. Even if it does have sour cream and butter and all and olive oil, you're
Yeah,
still going to
yeah.
be a little bit full to try to match the calories.
I agree. Yeah, you would have to really condense it. Maybe put like honey in your oatmeal, the whole nine. I mean,
Yes.
you'd have to go pretty crazy. But yeah. Okay. So basically, my point was, here's another question: do you think that you could have been even better in your career if you did have a coach? Just you personally.
Depends. I'm going to answer that both ways. So Matt coached me for the 2016 Arnold, and it didn't work out to either one of our favor. And that could have been, I think he did good up until the final week. And it was a diuretic protocol that just threw things, downhill, went to a downward spiral.
Yeah.
Do I think I could have been better? It's hard for me to say. I want to say yes with the right person in my corner, because there was times that I just did not know when to let up. It's like I would train 7 days. I would train from the beginning of prep till show day almost. Like no days off ever. Like no days off the cardio, no days off the training. And it wasn't a lot of cardio, like 20 or 25 minutes. But like I just couldn't bring it to myself to skip it, because then I would get in my head like, oh, well, now you're fatter. You didn't gain fat in one day. But I would tell myself that. So maybe if I
Yeah.
had someone to have reeled me back in and said, hey, no, like you're digging yourself a hole. Maybe you need a couple of days off rather than the refeed to try to pick back up the weight. You're burning through everything. You're driving yourself into the ground. That might
Oh
have
man.
actually caused me to retain more muscle and maybe feel a little bit better in the process.
Man, that's the hardest part. That's the hardest part. Even if you're somebody who has to go as low as me, I still feel that. Like literally, as crazy as it sounds, you were like, next 2 days, cardio 60 minutes. And I'm like, I kind of want to do 2 hours, which is the most fucked up thing, because when you gave me 2 hours,
You
I'm
get
like,
used to
oh
it.
my, yeah. So when you first gave me 2 hours, I'm like, what the fuck? Okay. I have to do it because I really want this shit. So not only did I do it, I pushed it. And I pushed it so hard that I almost got like a runner's high. And then when I would get to like 30 minutes, I would be like, fuck it, I could do this all day, and then I would just go, go, go. So when you pulled it back, I'm like, oddly enough, I kind of want to do 2 hours because it makes me feel comfortable. It makes me feel like I'm doing what I need to do. But the truth is that at some point, I build so much fatigue, I start to hold water and look worse.
Yeah.
So that's what you don't want.
Your
So
body's getting inflamed at that point as well.
exactly. That being said, um, last check-in, my sleep was fucked up. Past couple of days, I had a full 10 hours of sleep straight.
I don't even
And
know what
check
that
this.
feels like.
I didn't even know I was capable of that, but you build up enough fatigue, you can sleep, right? So I guess I built up so much fatigue that I was like,
If I
I'm
go 2 or 3
surprised.
days on like 2 hours a night, I'll get one good night, and then it's just the process over for me.
Exactly. So that's exactly what happened. So because I was so sleep deprived, I was able to go those 2 days. And then today, the sleep was not as good. But I dropped, I finally got into 250. I was 258. And I'm like, what the fuck? Just from sleep? Think about that. It sounds crazy. Like you'll do all this cardio, all this carb cutting, drop 1-2 pounds, but the moment you get sleep, boom, 4 pounds off.
I
You
was the same
know?
when I would take like towards the end of my career, like in 2016, I would take a couple of days off here and there. And I did notice if I took 2 days in a row off, I did look better. I couldn't. It was hard for me to fathom, because back then, and I'm not saying I don't enjoy the gym now, because I still do. I mean, I was literally at the gym like an hour ago,
It was
but
different.
I really, really enjoyed the gym back
I
then.
agree.
Like it was the only thing I found pleasure in throughout the day. Like that
Agree.
was it. So I mean, it was uncommon, or sorry, it was not uncommon for me to drive an hour each way to go to a specific gym that I wanted to train at. Now it's like if it's more than 20 minutes, I ain't going.
It's funny you say that. I feel the exact same way. Like I
So that's
still,
why I think I had a hard time taking off, because like, and I think that's also like Juan trained twice a day. He loved it. I mean, clearly you have to love it to train twice a day. And that's the same
yeah,
with Roman, like people that they don't know when, and I was guilty too. I trained twice a day many times throughout my career just because I wanted to be there. It made me feel good, it made me feel happy.
yeah.
And sometimes we don't realize, like, yeah, it may feel good, but it may not be the best thing for you.
No, no. These last two preps were the first preps that I didn't do that. I don't know if you're aware of that, but most of all of my preps, besides these last two preps, I was doing 2 a days. I was training twice a day, and I was training 7 days a week. My body on that low of food and high cardio just can't handle that.
That's a
I,
lie. Yeah. I never did it during prep, ever.
yeah,
I just
yeah,
felt like I was when my calories were low. I'd feel too taxed. But once I would go into my rebound phase, like I had to reel myself in a lot when it comes to the actual training because I would do 40 sets, working sets to failure.
Yeah.
People can't fathom that. But I would
Nah.
do like 40 to 50 working sets to failure and think, well, I need to do 20 more. Or I need to come back tonight and do another body part. Like that's what I
Yeah.
wanted to do.
It's crazy.
But I mean, granted, I didn't do like I was taking like a minute to 90 seconds rest. So I wasn't doing like stupid heavy weight because
Sure.
I wasn't purposely trying to pre-exhaust myself, but essentially that's what I was doing because I was again, I wasn't really I did it on purpose, but I wasn't trying to pre-exhaust. I was trying to essentially break down as much muscle as I could in the shortest amount of time possible. So I was just
Yeah.
throwing volume at myself, and my body liked it. I knew that when I was a teenager. I knew I could handle volume, and I knew I looked better. Like it was instant. Once I switched from low volume to high volume, within 2 weeks, my body and physique was changing.
Look better, yeah. Well, it also feels better in prep. Like in prep, you don't, I don't know, it's weird. Like you get anxious. Like I can't sit there and rest 3 minutes in between the sets. I want to go. I just want to go, go, go.
When your body weight gets lighter and your endurance, like your lung and heart capacity is good, like you can do like a set of bent over rows and 45 seconds, you feel like you can do it again.
Yeah, yeah.
Versus
Well,
off season, it's like I need that 3 minutes.
and honestly, if I rest too long, this deep in prep, I might not be able to keep going. I might shut down. I got to keep
Yes,
that blood moving, you know.
I
To
have to keep going when I'm in prep.
if I lose that focus, it's over. So like if I do it like a hard set of squats and I want to go lay down on the turf, I can't because if I lay down, man, I might not get back up for
Yep,
10 minutes.
that was the
So
same.
you
When I
can't
was
do that.
moving, I was unstoppable. But when I got home, I'd be fine when I get to my car. But when I have a 20-minute drive home, during that 20 minutes, once the pump is gone and my mental focus is starting to fade, I'd come home and flop my ass on the couch and it wasn't going
Yeah,
nowhere.
yeah, man. But I'm gonna have to start doing kind of that pre-exhausting you're talking about, where I'm resting even less, and I'm gonna start doing for the rest of the prep. I'm gonna do like all machines, just
I
because.
don't see anything wrong with that. Everybody hates on machines, but I don't see anything wrong with it.
Well, the reason why I have to do that because is surprisingly my strength is still high. So for me to go to failure in the rep ranges I like, I'm still having to go pretty heavy, and now it's starting to take a toll. So the other day I'm doing dumbbell incline. I was gonna do the machine, but somebody was on the incline arsenal, and I was like, "Fuck it, I'll do dumbbells." And I went up to 140s, and it's kind of felt light, so I went up to 160s. Now here's the thing: I don't have the same amount of brain energy and focus that I would in off season. So even if the strength is there, my focus wasn't there. Like I was doing weird shit. Like the control wasn't there. So I'm kicking it up, and I'm like, I never kick it up like funky like that. Like I feel like I could have hurt myself. So I'm like kicking it up. I'm like that felt so weird, and I'm repping it, but it's like the muscles feel hollow. The control is not there. It felt very dangerous. So just because the strength is there doesn't mean I have the mental focus and clarity. So a machine, I wouldn't have to worry about like balancing it. At this moment, I can't be trying to balance something. I need to just press it and then put it down.
That was
And
about as
you
heavy as
know,
I would ever go with dumbbells. It's about 140, 150s. And even at that, even at like that weight, I just felt like the risk was oftentimes not worth the reward because, like I said, when you have to kick that dumbbell back, you know, your shoulder moving like at this angle with that heavy weight on it, I feel like it's just an injury waiting to happen.
mhm.
So if I were doing anything that like any type of chest or shoulder movement, like I'd row heavy. Like I didn't have a problem taking
Yeah,
heavy
yeah,
dumbbells up the back. But when it
I
comes to
remember.
pressing them, I got to the point where I was so I have two instances. One, I pressed 200s one time.
Oh shit,
It was like 5 reps. But
gotcha,
keep in
gotcha.
mind, just 2 weeks prior to that, I did 505 for 5 on a barbell. So
Holy
like
shit.
that didn't bother me. Like laying back, like it was fine. But pick like these fucking dumbbells, like they're sitting like up here on your knees because the dumbbell itself is like 3 feet
Yeah,
long, 4 feet long.
Yeah,
Getting
yeah,
that into position, like to me, is an ego thing more than anything else. Like you don't need
it
to do
is.
that shit because, not to mention, when you're trying to go down with it, you have to go super, super wide because the dumbbells hit each other.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's just not safe to do. So like I tried to stay on Smith machines or hammer stuff. Like at least I would pre-exhaust on that, or I would go heavy on that, and then I would finish with the dumbbells towards the end. I remember one
yeah.
time, as far as kicking them back, this was on camera. I was up in Buffalo, New York when this happened to me. It's 2013. Yeah, 2013. I had never been in a gym that had anything above 150s, and they had 180s in this gym. So I was like, I got to try them. I knew I had the strength to do it, but I wasn't used to picking that type of dumbbells up. And if you're not used to it, man, it's a big difference going from 150 to 180. And I remember the girl that I was trying to see at the time, I asked her to video it for me because I wanted to see how it looked. I didn't, it never even made it to social media. Of course, this video, I'm glad didn't make it to social media. But like, I
Yeah,
went to kick them back, and if you don't kick them back at the same time when you lay back with it, and you're on a flat bench, it can not be so good. So I kicked one before the other one. This one's coming back, and this one I didn't get all the way. So when I laid back, this arm's back, and this one, the dumbbell snapped like I thought I ripped my bicep off.
yeah,
So
yeah.
the dumbbell snapped me down. So now I have no weight in this hand. I'm laying flat on the bench with a 180-pound dumbbell in this hand.
You're
It
gonna
rolled
flip.
my ass off the side of the bench, and she had all that shit on camera. Everybody just stopped and looked, and I was like,
Oh
we need to
man.
go. We need to leave now. We ain't
Yeah.
coming back to this fucking gym. Like,
No,
I've embarrassed myself to death.
yeah, it's just not it's just not worth it. And my shoulder was out of commission for a couple of days. Now it feels decent, but it's not worth it. So if somebody was on a machine and I felt I needed to do dumbbells because I didn't want to wait, I kind of went hundreds, did 3 sets of 15 with hundreds, right? And that would have been probably even more beneficial if anything, you know. I'm not gonna build muscle on 1,300 calories
No,
anyways.
you're not growing right now. That's for sure.
No, so let's just like not even try to do that. It's pointless. So
If you
I'm gonna
can
go.
maintain the muscle during prep, most people always want to talk about growing into a show, but they don't. Like
Okay.
it's just not those cards are just not in the deck for most people. I don't think
Yeah.
I grew into a show. I may have felt like it because I gained a couple of reps here and there, but that was probably because of the hormones that I was using. I didn't actually put on muscle tissue.
No, and you may look like it. Like I've seen people say, "Wow, you look like you're growing into the show," and I'm like, "Well, I
You're
guess you could
leaner.
say, yeah, you can say you look like it, but definitely not. But it can look like it because if you have round muscle bellies and you're leaner, well, then yeah, you just look like lean and you have more pop to you. So you in a tank top or shirtless, you actually look bigger and rounder, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you grew into it at all. So, all right, let's. I wanted to. There was the Emperor show. I wanted to kind of get your opinion on a few things since I have you on. Let's see. Okay, so I'm not gonna do the whole lineup. Let's start with six. Can you see?
Yeah, I can see. That's Pablo.
Okay, we're gonna start with sixth place, Pablo. What do you think about this? What do you think about this guy's physique, man? I really like his physique from the front, at least inside.
He's very hard. Like he's dense from the front.
Yeah.
Um, the only thing I can really knock this guy on is his back needs to be a lot better. And he could be a little bit harder, like through the glutes and hamstrings.
Yes.
But I think the back is like where he's probably lacking the most. Like if he could add a few more inches across his lats, he could be winning shows. Like he
Look
has
at
a really
okay.
good structure. Do
Okay.
what?
So they're comparing Pablo at sixth versus fifth place guy, and from the front, I think Pablo beats him pretty handily. Actually,
He can beat a lot of people from the front.
yeah. But from the back, I mean, it is just first of all the posing is off, but like you said, his actual there's no lines in his hams, man, and the glutes.
Yeah, he was better at the cow though.
I think so. I think so. I think he was better overall at the Cal. His front, this show looked like even more popping, which is not a good thing because he didn't need to be fuller. He needed to be harder,
Right.
but his front looked even more impressive here. But then his back looked less impressive, which is not gonna move you up, right? He has to fix the posing first, but he does need more back. And I think if he's harder, I think the hams and glutes would look good, right?
Yes. Yeah. That's just a little bit more conditioning. Like back what we
Yeah,
were saying at the beginning of the show, like you're only as fat. Sorry, you're only as lean as your fattest body part.
exactly,
He
exactly.
still holds a little bit there, even though like from the front he looks very, very dense. He still holds a little bit from behind.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes when I see it, I wonder because everybody's situation is different. I wonder if he's somebody who's killing himself to get in this kind of shape, or he's somebody who's just like kind of like coasting. You can't really know, right? Unless
I don't
you
know
know the
anything
kid.
about the guy.
Yeah, it's hard to say, But okay, in fifth place, I forget the guy's name. You remember the guy's name? I forgot. He did
I don't
well at
know.
the last show.
I don't remember who he is. I'll look it up really quickly so
Oh,
you can leave
Gel.
that on.
It says right
Do
here,
what?
Anthony. His name is Anthony Gel from France.
Yeah, I
It,
know
it,
the top four, but I don't know this guy.
yeah, he did. I think he did the show before this and got like, what was the show before this? This is the Empro. They did the Spain or Italy. What was the show before this? He
I'm
placed
gonna look it
well.
up.
Okay, yeah, he placed well at the last show, I believe. I think he was top 5 last show as well, or top 3 even, something like that. Can't remember.
All right, so we had Impro. There was the Cheroux Classic that had 212. Toronto was before that.
Oh, okay. He did Toronto, right? I think he got top 5 in Toronto, if I'm not mistaken.
Let me see. No, Tim
No.
Budazon got fifth in Toronto.
Oh, okay.
Robin was fourth. Um, John in third. Yeah, John was third, and then Quentin and Akeem.
Okay, never mind. I thought I saw him somewhere before, but okay.
I
He
don't
beat.
recognize the guy.
Well, he beat. Oh, he's 27. Oh, I didn't think he was that young, but he beats Pablo off of conditioning because Pablo has a better physique, I would say.
Yes. Yeah, this guy's got a little bit more muscle, but I think
Yeah,
Pablo has a better shape and structure.
yeah, yeah,
But this guy's harder just overall. So I would have to agree with that decision.
for sure. I mean, yeah, he's a bigger guy, and he's hard as he's actually very hard. His chest and yeah, he's doesn't have the best abs, but he pulls the vacuum, so to kind of like disguise that, which is probably a good thing if you don't have the abs.
I
Oh,
like this
San.
guy over here, Sasan.
Yeah, I thought so. Okay, he hasn't competed in 6 years. Have we ever seen anybody who was out for 6 years and came back potentially better? I know he was heavier and looks like he's in the same conditioning. I don't think we've ever seen a 6 year hiatus this successful, if I'm
The
not
only
mistaken.
real comeback I've seen, and it wasn't really a comeback because he had just a lot of shit in his life to overcome, but
Mhm.
was Victor Martinez. Like we've seen Victor shrink up and then blow back up and win shows.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't think there's definitely not 6 years, maybe 2 years in between.
yeah, yeah. It's a long time. So, okay, judging by the pictures, he is harder. His glutes are harder. He's heavier on the scale. Now it looks like he has some mobility issues right now. For some
Yeah,
reason,
his biceps. I mean, it looks like he's internally rotated on his shoulders.
yeah, but
And I think because of that internal rotation, it's actually taken away from his lats as well.
it is. But I could argue this is still his best version.
It was,
Besides,
yeah, I could it definitely has mobility issues there, like you were saying. Like his biceps don't look torn. It's just they're not facing the camera; they're facing down.
yeah, he also coached himself. Now, some people had him beating Kriso. I
I had him over Kriso.
Yes. I think Kriso from last year at this show beats him, but this Kriso he wasn't impressive, bro. Is it just me? I didn't think he was impressive.
So his conditioning was nowhere near as sharp as it normally is. So I
No,
feel like his conditioning was off, and apparently he's got a shoulder issue. I don't know anything about it, but I noticed his stomach was off
it
as
was.
well. So stomach is off, and the only thing that really throws Michael's look off is this is a weird thing to say. Like he has no glutes.
It's
Like he
real.
has
It's
no
none.
glutes at all. Like, and I know, and obviously he's aware of that.
Yeah, I feel like his posing. Anytime we speak about Kriso, people think it's like you don't like him for some reason, but it has nothing to do with emotions. It's just judging what's there. I feel like his posing is always pretty bad. I feel like his midsection control is always pretty bad.
Everyone's called him out on the posing.
Yeah, you know, including his midsection control. But here, I feel like he was flat, but also not hard enough. I feel like it was both.
It was a little bit of both. Yeah, it looked like he was a little bit behind on this prep. Like I saw
Yeah.
where a guy commented, I think it was AJ, because it got reposted from bodybuilder. No, maybe Suleiman reposted. I don't remember. One of them reposted it. Said he was pretty much out for the year because he's going to try to get his shoulder fixed, and
Yeah.
that's why he was. I guess. I mean, I can imagine it impeded his training too.
I would think so.
So, but his posing, he can't. We can't really use it as an excuse on the posing because he's never really been a good poser.
No, no. And another thing is, I feel like people say he's like a mass monster and one of the biggest guys in the IFBB. And I think
He has big
structurally,
arms.
oh, yeah, huge arms and shoulders. I think structurally he is, and he has huge arms and shoulders. But overall, I don't feel like he's like out muscling these two guys by
He's not
some
a freak that people think he is. I mean, because he always, when he was the elite pro, he won everything, but he wasn't standing next to the world's best bodybuilders. Now he is.
exactly.
And I'm not
So
saying, I'm not hating on the guy at all. Like, I haven't seen anybody say that, that people hate on Krisos. Maybe he takes it that way. I don't know. Like, I like the guy. I'd like to see him do better, but he's going to have to be harder. He's going to have to replicate his previous conditioning, and he needs to get with. I don't know why I'm saying this, but it's just what I feel. I feel like him and Cormier would make a good match with posing.
I can
I
see
know
that.
Chris is pretty no bullshit, and he will pound you with posing. So I would like to see him get with Cormier on posing. Now, whoever does his prep, I don't care about that, but it does
Right.
have to improve. But for
I can see
him,
that.
the only thing with him is his age. I don't know how old he is. He looks a little older, but
He's
we hear that a
33,
lot in
man.
bodybuilding, right? What?
He's only 33.
So he may have time to actually improve, like on his glutes. I would just like to see his entire backside come up more to match his front. That would include his back. It would include his hamstrings, his glutes, his upper back, lower back, all of it.
I agree.
Because when he does this pose right here, like the fact that he's so much bigger than the other guys, his lats are not jumping out at me like I would expect. And see, when he transitions, you can also see he's not controlling his stomach to the best of his ability either.
Exactly. If I'm being completely honest, I don't think he's as good as people think he is. If I'm being completely honest, like I said, that's just no hate. I mean, I like Kriso. You know, I think he has great body parts, but overall, I don't think what people expect from him is necessarily what what's gonna come to
He has an
fruition.
absolutely insane most muscular pose. And I
It's
think
crazy.
because he has that pose, people have like higher expectation than what he's able to deliver.
I agree. Like,
I mean, it's
it
like Rolly. When Rolly hits a most muscular, there's no doubt in my mind that pose is Mr. Olympia written all over it. But then when you hit the other poses, it's not there.
is different. Yeah.
And I
Like,
think Michael's the same way. Like he's not a bad bodybuilder by any means. He'll always be an Olympian, always be a top first or second call out guy. But to become Mr. Olympia or to become what people expect him to become is probably not going to happen.
yeah. Look at this. Look at this most muscular. That's crazy.
It's
Pretty
pretty
sick.
nuts, especially when they zoom in on that. Like his upper pec, just his shoulders, his arms, and he's got the legs. He's got big sweeping quads and matches. His most muscular pose is ridiculous. I'm sure it was the best on stage that weekend.
Yeah, he's gonna kill almost everybody on that pose. But yeah, I don't think he's on the caliber of somebody like Beirut. I think Beirut is a notch ahead
Yeah,
as
so
far as
since we're moving into the top two here, I had Beirut winning this show. Like, I don't like. I'm sure William would probably be offended to hear me say that, but like, it's not a poke towards William. I just thought Beirut has a better physique here this day, and I think that's because William. I haven't really heard William's feedback, comments, anything at all from winning the show. I haven't seen any interviews or podcasts from him, other than the one where that guy was trying to make a jackass out of himself, basically asking if he was natural or not.
yeah, that's stupid.
Um, if you like, I've seen multiple people make like picture collages or video collages of like 2017, 18, and 19. I think that was Bonac's best. Probably maybe even 16 through 19. That was when his body was peaking. But like
For
when he
sure.
hits these poses, I think because he doesn't have the smallest waist and he has a short torso, if he loses his lats, he's screwed. And I think
Yeah.
he's lost his last. So I think it takes away. He was never the most aesthetic guy, but I
No.
think this makes it worse. I mean, like I'd give this pose, I would give the side chest to Bonac, but like the other poses, I just think that Baruz is more complete as a bodybuilder.
So from the pictures and videos we have, I had Beirut winning as well. Um I felt like he was just as muscular, just as conditioned, and flowed better. You know,
Yes, I agree.
emotionally, from an emotional standpoint, I'm actually happy Bonac won.
Yeah,
But
I like Bonac. I've never had a problem with it. Me and him have chatted. We've been cool. Like I like the guy. I like him because he's very real. Like he has no
yeah,
problem telling you what's on his mind. He does not sugarcoat anything. So like I
yeah.
do like the guy for that, and I like his physique. I just don't think it was the best physique on the stage that day.
Now that being said, from people who were there in person, like, for instance, let's say Giles. Giles prefers Beirut's physique over Bonac. That's his preference in physiques. But Giles said that he had Bonac clearly winning, which is I didn't expect to hear that. But he did say in person it's different. And I
William,
saw
I will say this: I was backstage with him in 2016, and it was a lot different than what I expected back then.
you see,
Like when he took his clothes off, he was incredibly impressive.
you see. Also, I heard that Beirut wasn't as his usual crazy shredded self. Like
It
he
wasn't
was
as usual, but I still felt like it was enough. Again, based on
yeah.
the pictures and the video, I thought it was enough.
Exactly. So yeah, judging off pictures and videos, I thought it was more than enough. But like what looking at this shot, I I can see that in person, I could see Bonac was possibly in better condition. As crazy as it sounds, because Beirut is shredded. But looking at this, seeing the detail, I'm like, huh. I don't think from the chest striation to the leg separation, glutes, I could see possibly in person. Bonac was probably actually tighter.
Yeah,
So
I don't know if I've ever seen a show where I would say William is out of shape. Like there's been times that he's been better than others, but I mean that's the same for all of us for that matter. But I've
yeah,
never
yeah,
seen a show where William has been out of shape. He always
yeah,
brings conditioning to the table.
exactly. But the reason why I would take Giles' word is because, like I said, Giles already
He's been
prefers
around a long
Beirut.
time.
Exactly. And he's seen all forms of Bonac, all forms of Beirut. And like I said, he prefers that kind of physique. So if he's willing to admit that Bonac beats him, I would have to agree that in person, it probably was different.
It might have been. He may have just had a wow factor if you were there in the audience.
Exactly. But
I
from
mean,
what
there's
I've
some
seen,
guys that has that. I mean, course, Phil always had a wow. I always talk about Phil because he was the guy I competed with. But like
Yeah,
Phil was impressive in pictures. He was impressive in videos. But in person, the pictures and videos look like shit compared to
different
seeing
ball,
that man 10 feet away. It
different ball
looked
game.
like a cartoon. It didn't look real.
Yeah, I would imagine Bonac is probably similar, but I agree with you. From
He
what I've
is like
seen,
his insertions. It's weird because when he just stands there and he walks around and moves, the muscle insertions is different on him. I don't know how to describe it. It's not normal. Not normal in a good way.
yeah, yeah. From what I've seen in videos and pictures, I did have Beirut's winning as well. But hey, man, I mean, I'll take these people's words because they were there. Um, was this the? I think his coach said this was his best or matching his best. Of course, his coach would say that, but
Yeah, but
I
these
don't.
pictures don't lie. I mean, this was not his all-time best. I mean, it was great for a comeback for him, but like it was not his all-time best.
No, I could make the argument maybe purely condition and detail, possibly, but overall package, no, he's not as round and full in 3D. His waist isn't as good, but strictly condition and detail, could have possibly, but that's just one aspect of the whole thing. And listen, at 42, like you're not going to be better than you were in your mid 30s at 42.
Yeah.
That's just it's not how it works, you know.
The only
It- it-
person I think that pulled that off was Roden.
yeah, no, Roden actually was better, you know.
He was the
Like
only guy I've ever seen to continually get better with age.
I agree. Now, even though Dexter was still winning all the way until he was 50, I still believe Dexter's physique in 2008, 2009 was better. He was just
That's
good.
there's the reason why he won the Olympia that year, man. He was pretty off the charts in 2008.
Exactly. He was
He
just good
was
enough.
off, or sorry, he was so on, and Jay was so off that they had absolutely no choice but to give it to Dexter that time.
Yeah, they could not do it, you know. He was just so good
I
that he
think
was
even if Jay would have brought if Jay would have brought anything prior to 2009, Dexter was still going to beat him.
yeah, yeah.
And even the 2008 Dexter, I think, might arguably have beaten the 2009 Jay because in 2009, I don't think Dexter was as good.
Yeah, I can see that.
So the
Yeah.
tables kind of turned on him on that.
Yeah, Dexter was just so good that he was able to continue the win after his prime, but
Yes.
that was definitely his prime still. But
Yeah, the only show that he couldn't win was the Olympia at that point.
exactly. Well, congrats to Bonac, a great showing. And this
Who's that guy
coach,
with him there? Is that the coach? Is that
that's
Boss
the
of Outlaw?
that's Boss of Outlaw. Yeah,
Okay, I've never met
he's
the guy before. Tell me about it.
I've seen him on a couple of interviews, and he seems like just very passionate. You know,
Well,
I
he's
don't think,
produced a lot of great results. So, I mean,
yeah, like when it comes to X's and O's, I think all the top coaches have that down pat. But I think there's another factor in the passion and how much you care about your clients and how much you give them. And I think that's what he's doing. I think he takes it very personal and he's very hands on. And I think that's what makes him such a good coach. You
yeah.
know, it's not always
Well,
X's and
he
O's.
did real good with Martin as well.
Nathan as well.
Oh,
Um,
he's with Nathan.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, it's going to be interesting. How do you see this upcoming weekend with Nathan and Baruz?
that's gonna be close. I mean, condition
See,
is gonna.
a lot of people, and I'm not gonna lie, kind of rolled through my head as well. Like, why would they give Baruz a show because he can't come to the U.S. to do the Olympia, right?
But
Unless he,
Nathan can't
that's what I
either.
was gonna say.
Yeah,
Nathan
that's
can't
the hard
either,
part.
so it's equal playing field this upcoming weekend. So I feel like the better
That
man will win regardless.
yeah. How will I don't know. Beirut is a bit taller. Um, I would say at this point of their careers, Beirut is actually more aesthetic. Um, Beirut's his posing is so volatile and like he's
It's
humping the
not
air
good.
and it's not good. It's so shaky and jittery and it's just bad. So I don't know. Nathan is gonna be rounder, fuller. I actually think he improved in some places. Like his quads. Let me pull Nathan up. His quads are like really round and full, like more than I've ever seen. I don't think his waist is as good as it used to be. His shoulders and triceps, all of that is super full.
I
Overall,
I
uh,
wouldn't rule Nathan out yet, especially when it comes to like the waist and even his conditioning, because I did a show with Leo a couple of days ago and I said the same thing. I've seen Nathan at a week out, not in person, but just his pictures. And
yeah,
I've seen him at 2, 3 weeks out as well, watching his pictures. And my first thoughts is, you're not ready. Go home. Like you're not getting this. But something he does in the last few days, he changes a lot. Is this recent or when was that?
that was a little while back. Uh, what's the date on it? That's 2 weeks ago. He hasn't posted recently.
Okay, well, his biceps don't seem to have suffered from tearing them.
No, his quads look bigger, man.
I might actually have to retract my decision on this because I was thinking, I didn't see these photos, by the way.
Yeah.
I kind of had my money on Beru's on winning the show over Nathan, but see, I look at this and I'm going to say Nathan's going to lose because of conditioning.
Just
But
2 weeks.
I was going to say, I don't know what the hell he does in the home stretch, but he usually nails the conditioning. So, like, even though he's off here, I'm not going to rule it out and say he's going to be off on show day because I have a feeling he's going to be very on show day.
Yeah, you know what I used to think because a lot of the Kuwait guys they get pretty they push the diuretics pretty hard. So I used to assume that the way Nathan comes together at the end, it must be diuretics. But he says he doesn't use diuretics, and I think I believe him because even though he gets harder, he gets fuller as well. I think if you like cram diuretics, I don't think you're gonna have that pop that he has the way he does. You
I
know,
know he eats a shitload of food the last couple of days. Like I can't remember when I competed with him, he was eating like I don't
burgers.
remember what it was to be specific. It was like junk food
Oh, so
backstage, and I kind of looked at, it, I kind of questioned it, but I was like, I ain't gonna say too much here. And he just made the comment, he's like, yeah, this is what I always do. Like he just seemed like the way he said it. Again, I was in my own zone. When you're backstage, you don't give a shit about nothing else. So like I remember talking to him, but like I didn't really I hate to say it, I didn't really care what the answer was because I was just in my own little world. But the way he said it, I was like, and he does this all the time, like as in like this is a normal thing, like not just for peak week, but he just eats like this all the time. Maybe he
yeah,
does, maybe he doesn't. I don't know.
yeah. From the last show he did, I watched his video. He did like he filmed the video all the way until show day, and he was having burgers that like I think a day out to show day. So yeah, he does do that, but he gets tighter, man. I don't know. Whatever he's doing is working. You know.
I don't know, maybe he's dropping water. I mean, it could be other chemicals at play here. Maybe he's a guy who just loads a shitload of Anadrol and stays full the whole prep and then drops it, and then that's when he comes in shape. Maybe it's
Point.
GH. Like I said, maybe it's chemical related and not food related at all.
Yeah, that could
He's
be
done
true as
enough
well.
shows now. I feel like he's got his body under control, and he'll bring it together.
I agree. I agree.
He's not a
What?
rookie at this point. No, he's not a dark horse at this point.
No. Did a show this weekend, right? No.
Yes.
What show is that?
It's
Or
in
or,
Italy, I think,
or the
or
one with
Spain.
Nathan?
One or the other.
Nathan versus Baruz, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. All right. You want to do a couple questions before we go?
Yeah, we go through a couple of questions and then call it.
Yeah, because we've been on for a little bit now. All right. This is this is your questions, I believe. Yeah, this is one. Okay. Okay. So it's gonna be directed toward you. Favorite competition you competed in?
My favorite look or my
Oh
favorite
yeah, good
show?
good point. Let's do your favorite show, man. Let's do your favorite show.
Um, I'd probably have to say favorite show would be between. And granted, I did look good at both of these shows. I like the Golden State, and I like Tony's shows in Australia. And the reason I like them both is because they tell you a time and they stick to it. Like to me, I
Mm,
feel like that's critical, especially when you're talking about pro athletes. You want them to look their best. It's not okay. Like if you go, I mean, obviously I still have people do North Americans, but I think that's a really shitty ran show because
really?
they'll have like heavyweights line up. You're going on in 10 minutes. Yeah, you're going on in 2 hours.
Oh,
Like
okay.
they don't have the timing. It does not work to the athlete's favor, and I think that's bullshit.
Mm,
Regardless of whether it's Mr. Olympia, like I don't think the Olympia was ran good at all. I thought it was a complete shit show. And Robin was running it back then. I don't know how it is now that Dan took over. Hopefully, it's better. I haven't heard any complaints about it. But the Arnold Columbus was kind of okay, kind of not. But I think the two that I just mentioned, Tony shows in Australia and Hany show that was it. Hany, see, used to be Spectrum Fitness Productions. I mean, the show don't even exist anymore now. But it was like they told us that pros were going to go on at 12. Now, I do feel bad what they did to the amateurs because they had the amateurs pumping up backstage, the NPC guys. And at 12 o'clock, they just said, oh, hey, guys, chill out for about 45 minutes. Like, that was shitty to do that to
mm.
them. But as the pro that's competing, they told us 12. They were on the money at 12 o'clock. And I
Right,
think
right.
that's critical. I just think they should have handled the NPC part a little bit better. Maybe start them early. I don't really know on that. But I know Tony's show, I actually thought I had a really bad vibe when I got like to the venue because he had a tour bus. I felt like we were like rock stars or something on a tour bus going from the hotel over to a venue. And we get to the venue and it was supposed to start at 4 o'clock Australian time, which I have no idea what that is US. Supposed to start at 4 o'clock, and it's like 3:30, and we get there. There's really nobody standing outside. There's nobody in the audience. We get backstage. There's no expediters, no tanning ladies. It's fucking dead. And I'm like, well, I'm glad I didn't worry about being on time. And then like 4:45, the tanning lady comes around. She goes, "Hey guys, you're going on stage in 15 minutes. Be ready. If you need touch-ups, now. Want to get glazed? Now." I'm like, okay. So I had my time, like I timed it for 4 o'clock, and I thought they were gonna fuck it up. Thankfully, it worked out to my advantage because out of nowhere, everybody just showed up and the show went on at 4 o'clock.
Oh wow.
So yeah, I mean, they apparently that it happened that's the same way 2 years in a row. So I guess that's just how he does things, which I don't care. As long as it gets done, I don't care how it gets done.
Yeah, yeah.
So I just think that's very critical. Like in treating the athletes with respect, like it's not okay to say you're going to be on at 2 and really you don't go on to 4:30 or 5. You know,
No,
that puts
no.
the athlete and the coach both in the shitter when they do that.
Yeah, when it comes to bodybuilding shows, I think it's important to understand that the athlete's look comes first. Like the whole production value and the viewers and the fans have to come second to that because the physiques are the show. So
Yes.
you can't put the production first and then make it all the fancy shit and cool shit that they want to do. End of the day, bodybuilding fans watch bodybuilding. You're not gonna all of a sudden convert the average person to a bodybuilding fans because you have Shaq or The Rock there and you have like all this fancy lighting. It doesn't work that way. Bodybuilding is a sport that you like it or you don't. You're not gonna bamboozle somebody to like it. So if you just bring the best looking physiques, you're always gonna have the best show. Simple as that.
Correct. Yes, I agree with that 100%. I mean, I'm not anti-American by any means, but like the national anthem and all this stuff that happens, like when you cost or this guy gets a special award or you have to interview this guy on stage, like at the end of the day, I don't give a shit about any of that. I came to watch a bodybuilding show. So
Exactly.
that's what I want to see.
Exactly.
Either I came to watch it or I came to do it, but either way, the result still needs to be the same.
I agree with that as well. So I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this question, but this is for the fans. So, what was the reasoning behind being self-coached?
Well, we kind of went over that a little bit, very, very briefly. Keep in mind, I started out in bodybuilding without a coach. So that was
Oh man.
normal for me. Yeah, like I did my first show in 2007, and I actually did not know online coaching was a thing. And it really wasn't a thing back then. You had Dante coached a few people, very few. This was before True Nutrition just took off.
Yeah.
Lane Norton, which I'll get to Lane here in a second. Shelby did it. There's like two or three other guys. But
There
I was
was a
also
lot.
a teenager. So, like, even if I knew about the coaching aspect of things, it's not like I could afford it.
Exactly. A lot of people don't
You
realize
know,
that because the coaches back then, we couldn't afford Kriso and Chad.
yeah.
It didn't work that way, you know.
Yeah, so I didn't know who Chris Aceto was. If you would have said, "Hey, Chris Aceto wants to work with you," I'm like, "Who the fuck is that?" Like, I didn't know. I mean, I was 18 years old, teenager, but I didn't follow pro bodybuilding back then either. I literally followed teenage bodybuilding because that's what I was. Like,
Okay.
I didn't follow the people that was below me or above me. I followed the people that was in my lane.
Yeah.
So I didn't have the money, and to be honest, I think as a teenager, I would not have been coachable. I feel like I was, you know, how we're talking about when you're young, you know everything. And I
Yeah.
felt like I did know everything. And granted, I did show up at my first show and I did win it. So I feel like I learned my own body pretty good at a young age. And it did take some trial and error. There was things that worked and there was things that didn't work for me. And I had to kind of make note of that along the way. But I was pretty familiar with the self-coach game. And then in 2008 or 9, my friend had hired Alex Azarian. Do you remember him? He was out your area.
Oh.
He
I
was
don't think.
Alex was I think he was from LA. I think he was a school teacher as well. Turned
Mm,
pro as a middleweight, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe he didn't turn pro. He was really, really good, like conditioning wise. This guy would get crazy hard. And I remember him telling me, he was like, "Hey, the next show you do, you need to hire somebody to help you out." He's like, "You have the potential, you're just not maximizing it." So I did hire someone, and I went with Shelby in 2010, and we did win the Mr. Kentucky that year under him. And I went with Factory after that. Now, granted, what I'm doing this whole time, I am being a good athlete by listening and doing exactly what I'm told, but I'm also making mental notes saying, "Shit, even though I did it, that shit didn't work." Or I may say, "Hey, what do you have me do here? This worked like a charm." So I'm like taking notes off things of what's working and what's not working. And at the same time, I'm also researching outside of this as well. So when I made the jump to do my own thing, so 2012, Factory helped me get my pro card. In 2013, we had a little bit, not me and Factory, but just I say we, there was multiple people involved in this. There was some, I don't want to say unforeseen circumstances, but I wasn't doing as good financially as I wanted to be. So I really couldn't justify paying a coach in the offseason. The money wasn't there for me. In fact, he never charged me a lot of money, to be fair. He was always very good with me, but still, it was like $100 or $200 is still $200 to me. I couldn't do it. So I
yeah.
did my own off season, and I got with Gear Nutra. And that's when I was, you remember that bullshit company?
I do. I remember watching the videos. I
All right.
remember
You're going to hear my
that.
dog talking because he likes to be very verbal from time to
No,
time.
you go,
But anyways,
brother.
Gear had this thing. Like I always like to be honest and fair and square with people, and you'll understand where I'm going with that in just a second. So Gear was putting on a big front for everybody, and they contacted me and Aaron Clark, and they said, "Hey, we want to make sure you all represent on stage the best you can, so we hired you a coach." Well, first off, I didn't like that shit to begin with. Like, you don't hire me a coach. I picked my own coach. Like, they told me, but they waited like 2 days before they told me who it was. I was thinking out loud, well, this is about to blow up because, like, even though you're paying me, I'm ready to walk away from your contract. I'm ready to tell you to shove it up your ass because, like, when you start fucking with my coaching, which means you're fucking with my career, like, if I didn't have any vendettas against anybody, but like, if you hired somebody for me that I was not going to work with, I'm not doing it. So sorry about your luck on that. But they didn't tell us who. They said it was in negotiations. And then like 2 days, they said, hey, we hired Factory. And I'm like, oh, well, shit. Guess that worked out well, right? So
but
I got back.
it's still not your place to do that.
Yes, it did rub me the wrong way. Like, it was a nice gesture, but it was like you're overstepping at that point.
I agree.
So I got back with Factory for like 4 or so months that off season. And then Factory actually hits me up and he goes, hey, can you reach out to Pete and tell him that I haven't gotten a check yet? I'm like, what do you mean we got the check? Gear just never fucking paid it.
Bro.
Just like they didn't pay anybody for that matter. Like Bleckman, I think they owed MD like 200 grand. Like, yeah, 200 grand. And they got to the point they stopped paying the athletes, which is why I bounced. I got out of that shit real quick. I mean, it's 10 years ago now. But like, that whole company was a shit show. But when I found out Factory wasn't getting paid, I just told him, I was like, hey, man, like, I'll reach out to Pete. I knew Factory was going to get it right. He always does. But like, I told him I'd reach out to Pete. And they're like, oh, yeah, we're taking care of it. So I waited a couple of weeks. I talked to Aaron, and then I went back to Factory. I was like, hey, did you get your money? He goes, not yet, man. Can you keep trying? Or he wanted me to help. And I was like, yeah, I'll try. And they gave me the same runaround. So I was like, I don't feel comfortable taking your services for free. Like, that's not my nature to do that. I can't do that. So I was like, I can't really afford you myself at this point. And I also morally can't take your services for free because Factory is a guy. I always looked at the timestamps of when he would respond to me. He'd respond to me at like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning because he was working like 20-hour days and sleeping 4 hours a day. So for me, that just didn't seem right to take a guy working that hard to take his services for free. So I thought to myself, you know what? This is where I have to try my hand and do this myself. And I did, and it worked out to my advantage. But on that note, can you still hear me?
Yeah, I get it.
All right. I'm gonna pause for about a minute because he's crying. I'm gonna let him out real quick.
Yeah,
I'll be right back. They stopped paying FAC, and I just basically had to say, like, this is not my nature. Like, I can't afford to pay you, and I morally can't take your services for free. Because he was a guy who worked like 20-hour days, and like, I don't know if he was financially struggling or not. I think he was doing very well, but still, it's like, I've never been a guy, like, I never walked into a gym and said, oh, hey, I'm Justin Compton. Can I train for free? No. I just said, hey, how much is the day pass? If they let me in free, I'm happy. If they don't, I'm happy to pay. You know, like, I didn't want any special treatment because of like my name or anything like that. So I ended up doing my own thing and it worked out. It was actually kind of a blessing because I feel like it gave me knowledge to experiment a little bit on myself. And I liked it. It's kind of weird, but I liked saying, okay, I pulled back here and this is what happened, or I had here and this happened. Like, because I get to watch the changes from day to day. And it allowed me to grow myself as a bodybuilder, grow myself as a person, and also grow myself as a coach too.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, it was probably fun as well, I'm sure.
Oh, I enjoyed it. I actually it was a little stressful the first 30 minutes of the day, but it made my brain work. So the way I kind of did things was once a week, sometimes twice a week, I would actually take pictures. And I would pose every morning and I'd look at the scale every morning. And based on what I'm looking at myself and where the scale's at, I use the scale as a secondary factor, but I still took it into consideration. Like, if you're down 6 pounds and you look softer, then obviously something ain't going right, right? So I would do that, and then I would have an Excel chart. Like, I used to actually put I don't do this shit now because I think it's it was me being OCD. But I used to literally chart out everything, the sodium, the potassium. I used to do all that stuff, but I only worked with myself. And I had like 5 people at the time, which wasn't hard to do that with 5 people. But then I had to realize, like, this is too much to do this. Like, I don't even want to do this for myself anymore.
And it's not like super necessary anyways.
Yeah. So like I just got to the point where I just make my adjustments on what I felt like I needed to do. Like towards the end of my career, like I didn't like pull out an Excel chart or anything like that. I just knew like, hey, here's my diet. This is what I need to change on it. So it worked out. I actually enjoyed it. Like when Matt coached me in 2016, this is not a dig at Matt. I did not enjoy it because there was times I felt like I need to make a change, but like I was like, I don't want to be that guy that's nagging at my coach. And I just let it go. And we obviously got in shape. And if I ever needed anything, like say if something was detrimental, if something was wrong, he would answer me, obviously. But I kind of liked doing it myself. So the one thing that always used to frustrate me, and I still get this to this day, when people will post me or if I post myself of like when I was at like my best, people are like, oh man, you and Hany made a good team. I'm like, no, get that shit out of your mouth. Like, I did this myself. I want credit to this. Like people always thought because me and him were like, we were in pictures and videos together, they just assumed that like, and I will say this, Hany don't usually train people like in the gym that he's not coaching as well.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, it kind of makes sense to
yeah, so most people assume that, and I always made a statement myself that like, hey, I'm coaching myself or Matt's coaching me, whatever. But Hany never would denounce that. He never would come out and say, I don't coach Justin. He refused to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess good for business, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, the only downside of that is there was a little bit of drama and controversy. I just simply stayed out of it because I didn't really give a shit. I really did not care either way. But his own marketing team told him, and the only reason I know it is because I was there when they said it. They said, you and Justin need to go on camera and actually tell everyone that Justin does his own coaching. If he has any questions, he's welcome to ask you, but you don't actually coach him. They told him to do it. He never did it. Well, in 2016, when I personally think that was my worst look of all time. Even though I got 4th at the Arnold, I was so disappointed in that. Like, it did not look good. And to be fair about it, I think Juan should have beaten me. And I think I've told Juan that. I think Juan should have gotten 4th and I should have gotten 5th. It is what it is. I was very disappointed in my look. And a lot of people was disappointed in that look. And I'm not saying I was ashamed of it, but I was disappointed because I know I was capable of being a lot better. But man, as soon as I come on stage and I bomb, Hany he made damn sure he wanted the world to know he didn't do that. He wanted to clear his name now that like I bombed. If I would have went in there and won that show, he would have been right beside me. I mean, that's just business on his part, but still. I think, again, a lot of people, especially like foreign people that probably don't understand like what we're saying right now on the podcast, that don't understand English, they just see the picture. Justin Hany, that's his coach. They don't know because they don't watch shows. They don't read anything that I write because they can't. There's nothing against them. They just don't know any better.
Exactly.
I mean, it's like if you take like Pablo, for example. I don't know if Pablo speaks English or not. I just picked some random European guy. I would have no clue who that guy works with because I don't read his post. I don't translate things on Instagram. Like, I look at his stuff from time to time. Like, I don't actually read it. I'm just looking at pictures for entertainment.
Yeah, exactly. So
if somebody's got something in English, and I'll actually entertain it, I'll read it. But like, if it's in a different language, I just keep scrolling. It's nothing personal, but like, I don't really have the time to sit there. You know, like the translation apps, they don't always translate right. And it looks like a bunch of gibberish shit. So I'm like, I know they didn't write that. So I was like, just keep scrolling, keep going.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's why a lot of people that are not U.S. citizens or speak English as a primary language or even a secondary language. I feel like that's why they don't know, is because of that.
Yeah.
And then when I tell people, they're like, "Oh, wow, you didn't work with Hany?" I'm like, "Nope," and they're baffled by that.
Funny how that works. But Justin, we've been on about 2 hours, longer than I thought we would be on, but it was good. It was good stuff. We gotta do this more often for sure. You down for Thursdays to do this?
Yeah, let's wait until because I have a client that's going to be coming into town. He's going to be staying with me next week. As long as we don't have anything planned, I'm good for next Thursday. But let's touch base, say Monday,
Okay. Yeah.
and I'll know by Monday.
All right, perfect. Sounds good, bro.
And if I can't do it Thursday, I can either do it Wednesday or Friday.
Okay, okay. It works either way.
Okay.
We'll flush it out. All right, Justin, thanks for coming on, brother.
All right, man. Have a good
I'll
one.
see you next time. You too, brother.